Showed up for Christmas, but Mom said, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong house." Shocked, I left. Minutes later, my brother called. "Don't be upset, but you know we couldn't let you in." I replied, "Understood." He forgot to hang up. He still thinks helping with rent means he's automatically included. I canceled rent, blocked cards, and by morning 61 missed calls. No rent, no home. My name is Allison Reed, 32 years old, standing in the falling snow with a homemade apple pie and carefully wrapped gifts. After driving across 3 states to surprise my family for Christmas, my heart swelled with anticipation as my mother opened the door of my childhood home. But instead of welcoming arms, her eyes turned cold. "Sorry. I think you have the wrong house," she said firmly before closing the door in my face. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt the sting of family betrayal and want to join our community of survivors. Growing up in our modest 2-story home in small-town Ohio wasn't always picture-perfect, but we had our moments. My parents divorced when I was 15, leaving my mother Margaret to raise me and my younger brother Tyler alone. Dad moved to Florida with his new girlfriend, sending birthday cards with $20 tucked inside that gradually dwindled to just Facebook messages as the years passed. Mom worked double shifts at the local hospital as a nurse administrator, her exhaustion visible when she'd collapse onto the sofa each evening, still in her scrubs. Tyler was 4 years younger than me, always the charming one with his dimpled smile and ability to talk his way out of trouble. I took on the responsible role, making dinner when Mom worked late, helping Tyler with homework, and taking on part-time jobs through high school to contribute to household expenses. Our family unit might have been fractured, but we survived by leaning on each other. After college, I stayed local for a few years, working at a marketing firm in Cincinnati while living just 30 minutes from Mom's house. During those years, Sunday dinners were our tradition. I'd bring groceries, cook for everyone, and we'd watch movies together afterward. Those were comfortable times. Though I often felt the weight of being the responsible one, the emotional support for both Mom and Tyler. 5 years ago, an opportunity arose that I couldn't pass up. A major marketing agency in Chicago offered me a position with nearly double my salary and real advancement potential. The decision to move wasn't easy, but at 27, I needed to build my own life. Mom acted supportive, though her lips tightened when I shared the news. Tyler, then 23 and still living at home while taking community college classes, seemed genuinely happy for me. "Go show them what the Reeds are made of," he said, hugging me tightly on moving day. What started as occasional financial help quickly became regular support. 3 months after my move, Mom called about the furnace breaking down in the middle of winter. The repair cost $4,000 they didn't have. I transferred the money immediately. 2 months later, Tyler needed a reliable car for his new job. Another $5,000 from my savings. By the end of my first year in Chicago, I had set up automatic monthly transfers to both their accounts to help with expenses. Those transfers continued for years, $800 to Mom for mortgage assistance and $500 to Tyler for getting on his feet. I never questioned the ongoing need, assuming they would tell me when things improved financially. During the rare weekends I could visit, I noticed new furniture in the living room, Mom's updated kitchen appliances, and Tyler's growing collection of gaming equipment. They explained these as bargain finds or necessary investments. Meanwhile, our emotional connection grew increasingly strained. My calls went to voicemail more often. Family updates came primarily through social media rather than direct conversations. When we did speak, the conversations revolved around their lives, their problems, with little interest in my promotion or the challenges of building a life in a new city alone. Holidays became pressure-filled obligations. 2 Thanksgivings ago, I spent 8 hours cooking while Mom and Tyler watched football, then complained the turkey was too dry. Last Christmas, I planned to visit but caught a terrible flu. Their disappointment seemed more about the gifts I wouldn't be bringing rather than missing my company. Still, I sent packages and transferred extra money for a special holiday dinner. This year was going to be different. I declined a company retreat to Jamaica, arranged coverage for my accounts, and spent weeks selecting perfect presents. For Mom, a cashmere sweater in her favorite shade of blue and a spa package at the resort she'd always wanted to visit. For Tyler, the limited edition gaming console he'd been hinting about, and concert tickets for his favorite band's reunion tour. I even practiced making Grandma Reed's apple pie recipe until I could recreate it perfectly from memory. Our phone conversations leading up to the holiday were brief. Mom mentioned having a small gathering, but didn't elaborate when I asked who would be attending. Tyler texted rather than called, asking if I could chip in extra for holiday expenses. I transferred an additional $1,000 as my contribution to the festivities, assuming this would help make the holiday special for everyone. Throughout the autumn months, feelings of disconnection gnawed at me. Despite the physical distance, I should have felt closer to my family. The monthly financial support wasn't obligatory to me, but an expression of love, a way to remain connected to them despite the miles between us. Yet with each interaction, I sensed an invisible barrier growing, as if my decision to pursue my career had somehow betrayed them. Still, nothing prepared me for what would happen when I arrived on their doorstep Christmas Eve, arms laden with gifts and heart full of hope for reconciliation. The Chicago skyline disappeared in my rearview mirror as I headed east on the interstate, Christmas music playing softly on the radio. My apartment looked particularly empty that morning. The Christmas tree I decorated standing alone in the DA corner with just a few packages underneath for neighbors who might stop by. The real presents were carefully packed in my trunk, wrapped in silver and blue paper with handwritten tags attached to each. My boss, Lisa, had raised her eyebrows when I requested the full week off. "The Thornton account presentation is on the 28th, she reminded me. "Are you sure you can't do Christmas Day with family and be back for prep?" "I haven't had a real Christmas with them in years," I explained. "I need this time." What I didn't tell her was how desperately I wanted to rebuild the closeness we'd lost. Lisa reluctantly approved my time off, making me promise to check emails remotely. The normally 8-hour drive stretched to nearly 12 as snowstorms across Indiana forced traffic to a crawl. I called Mom around noon to update her on my delayed arrival. "We're having dinner at 6, she said, her voice oddly flat. "Don't worry about rushing. We can save you a plate." "I'll try to make it in time," I promised. "I've got presents for everyone." A pause followed. "Everyone?" "Yes, for you and Tyler, and I can wrap something for anyone else who's coming," I offered, trying to sound casual while fishing for information about the small gathering. "That won't be necessary," she replied quickly. "Drive safely, the roads are probably bad." She hung up before I could respond. That conversation replayed in my mind as I inched along the interstate. Maybe she was just busy with preparations. Maybe the connection was bad. Still, her tone bothered me, lacking the warmth a mother should have when her daughter is braving snowstorms to see her. At a rest stop in western Ohio, I called Tyler, who answered on the fourth ring sounding slightly out of breath. "Hey sis, what's up?" Background noise nearly drowned out his voice. "Just checking in. I'm about 3 hours away now, the roads are clearing up." Cool. Listen. I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back?" He never called back. Just outside Columbus, I stopped at a gourmet market to buy ingredients for the apple pie. The store bustled with last-minute shoppers, everyone clutching lists and moving with purpose. I selected the finest Granny Smith apples, premium cinnamon, and splurged on a handcrafted pie dish I thought Mom might like to keep afterward. An elderly woman in line behind me smiled at my purchases. "Someone's getting a special homemade treat," she observed. "My family," I explained, suddenly tearful. "I haven't been home for Christmas in a while." She patted my arm. "Nothing like coming home for the holidays, dear." The final stretch of highway gave way to familiar exits, then town roads, that hadn't changed since my childhood. The movie theater where I had my first date, the ice cream shop where we celebrated Tyler's Little League victories, the park where Mom used to take us sledding after heavy snows. Each landmark triggered memories of simpler times, when our family bond seemed unbreakable. Main Street was decorated with twinkling lights and evergreen garlands, the town square dominated by a massive Christmas tree. I drove slowly past my old high school, noticing new construction had replaced the athletic fields. Life had continued here without me, the town evolving just as I had in Chicago. Turning onto Maple Avenue, I felt butterflies in my stomach. Our modest 2-story colonial came into view, now adorned with tasteful white lights along the roofline and wrapped around the porch columns. I never remembered our decorations being so elegant during my childhood years. The driveway was full of vehicles I didn't recognize, a red SUV, a sleek black sedan, and what looked like a brand new luxury sports car alongside Mom's familiar blue Honda. Quite a gathering for Christmas Eve. Friends of Mom's from the hospital, perhaps? Or Tyler's college buddies? I parked along the curb, checking my appearance in the rearview mirror. The 12-hour drive had left me looking tired, but a quick application of lipstick and a brush through my hair helped. I wanted to look successful, happy, worth being proud of. Balancing the pie in one hand and a tote bag of gifts in the other, I navigated the freshly shoveled walkway. Christmas music and laughter spilled from inside along with the mouth-watering aroma of roasting turkey. Through the front window, I glimpsed the living room Christmas tree, much larger and more elaborately decorated than in years past. The sight of stockings hanging from the mantel made me wonder if one bore my name. Snow crunched beneath my boots as I climbed the porch steps. Taking a deep breath to calm my nerves, I shifted the packages in my arms and pressed the doorbell. The music inside dipped in volume. Footsteps approached. I plastered on my brightest smile as the door swung open. Mom stood in the doorway, a glass of red wine in hand. Her hair had been recently colored and styled, her makeup expertly applied. She wore an elegant black dress I'd never seen before, with a sparkling necklace that caught the light. For a split second, joy flashed across her face before being replaced by something entirely unexpected, alarm. Her eyes widened as she took in my snow-covered boots, the steaming pie in my hands, and the bag of gifts. Behind her, I caught glimpses of people moving about. The dining room table set with what appeared to be fine china and crystal glasses. This wasn't a small gathering. This was a full-scale holiday dinner party. Mom's fingers tightened around her wineglass as she positioned herself to block my view of the interior. The warm, familiar greeting I'd anticipated never came. Instead, she uttered the words that would shatter my world. "Sorry. I think you have the wrong house," Mom said, her voice carrying just enough volume for anyone nearby to hear. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "Mom, it's me, Allison." Her expression remained fixed, eyes darting nervously over her shoulder before returning to me. "I'm afraid you must be confused," she continued with a charade. "There's no Allison here." The pie felt suddenly heavy in my hands. A cold gust of wind sent snowflakes swirling around us on the porch, some landing on the steaming pastry. "Mom, what are you talking about? I drove all day to get here. We talked on the phone earlier." My voice trembled as confusion gave way to the first tendrils of hurt. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "This isn't a good time, Allison. You should have called to confirm." "I did call. You knew I was coming." The pitch of my voice rose with incredulity. Behind her, a man's voice called out, "Margaret, who's at the door? We're ready for the toast." Mom glanced back into the house before facing me again, her expression hardening. "Like I said, you have the wrong house. Merry Christmas." She began closing the door. "Wait." I wedged my boot in the narrowing gap. "At least let me give you these gifts." I drove across 3 states. The door paused. For a fleeting moment, I thought she might relent, might invite me in from the cold to join whatever celebration was happening inside my childhood home. Instead, she whispered, "Not now, Allison. Please just go." "Margaret?" A different voice approached from inside, and suddenly Tyler appeared behind our mother. He wore a button-down shirt and tie, looking more polished than I'd ever seen him. His eyes met mine, widening in recognition, and then, unmistakably, panic. "It's nothing," Mom told him, still maintaining her bizarre pretense. "Just someone who got the wrong address." Tyler stared at me, conflict evident in his expression. For a moment, I thought he might contradict her, might welcome his sister who had faithfully sent him $500 every month for years. Instead, he placed a hand on Mom's shoulder. "Everything okay out here?" he asked, pointedly avoiding addressing me directly. "Fine," Mom replied. "I was just explaining the situation." From the dining room came sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. A woman's voice called out, "Tyler, your girlfriend is telling that hilarious story about your trip to Aspen." "Girlfriend? Aspen. With what money had my chronically unemployed brother taken a ski vacation?" "I'll be right there," Tyler called back, still not acknowledging me. "To Mom," he murmured. "We should get back to our guests." "Our guests, not including me?" Mom nodded and faced me again. All pretense of not recognizing me apparently abandoned now that Tyler had joined her. "You need to leave, Allison. This is embarrassing for everyone." "Embarrassing?" I repeated, the word hitting like a physical blow. "I'm family. How is that embarrassing?" "We have important people here tonight," she hissed. "Tyler's girlfriend's parents, my new friends from the country club." "Country club? On a nurse administrator's salary?" "We can talk tomorrow," she continued. "This isn't the right time for your unexpected visit." My arms began to tremble under the weight of the pie and gifts. So when exactly would be the right time to see my own family at Christmas? Tyler shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. From inside, a chorus of voices began counting down for something. 10, 9, 8. "Just go, Allison, please." Mom's voice held no warmth, no apology, only irritation at the inconvenience I'd become. 7, 6, 5, the voices continued. Tyler finally spoke directly to me, his voice barely audible. "You should have called first, sis." 43. Mom seized the opportunity of my stunned silence to push my foot away from the threshold. "Merry Christmas," she said mechanically, then closed the door firmly in my face. 2, 1. From inside came cheers and applause, the celebration continuing without interruption, as if the daughter of the house hadn't just been turned away like a stranger. I stood motionless on the porch, snowflakes accumulating on my hair and shoulders. The pie's warmth seeped through my gloves, a cruel reminder of the cozy family scene I'd imagined sharing it in. Behind the door, music volume increased again. Through the window, shadows moved in what appeared to be dancing. My fingers loosened, their grip. The pie slid from my hands, landing with a dull thud in the snow at my feet. The handcrafted dish cracked, filling with white powder as steam rose from the ruined dessert. The bag of gifts followed, tumbling onto the porch. One package burst open, revealing the corner of the blue cashmere sweater I'd selected so carefully for my mother. Tears blurred my vision as I stumbled back down the steps. The Christmas lights that had seemed so welcoming minutes earlier now felt like a cruel decoration on a facade. This house, once my home, belonged to strangers now, strangers wearing my mother's and brother's faces. In my car, I sat with numb fingers gripping the steering wheel, unable to process what had just happened. Through the windshield, I watched the holiday scene continue inside the house, silhouettes moving past windows, occasional bursts of laughter escaping when someone opened the front door to admit late arrivals or welcomed departing guests with hugs. No one retrieved the fallen packages from the porch. Perhaps they assumed the wind had blown over a decoration. The first sob caught me by surprise, bursting from my chest with such force that I doubled over the steering wheel. Then another followed, and another, until I was gasping for breath between violent cries that fogged the car windows and drowned out the last Christmas song playing softly on the radio. For 32 years, I'd been Allison Reed, daughter of Margaret, sister of Tyler. In an instant, that identity had been stripped away on the front porch of the very home where it had been forged. I was no longer family. I was an embarrassment, an inconvenience, a stranger. As tears subsided into hiccuping breaths, I fumbled for my phone, uncertain who I could possibly call in this moment of absolute desolation. Before I could decide, the screen lit up with an incoming call. Tyler's name flashed on the display. With shaking fingers I accepted the call, pressing the phone to my ear without speaking. What could I possibly say? "Allie?" Tyler's voice came through, hushed and hurried. "Are you still outside?" Cleared my throat, willing strength into my voice. "I'm in my car. Listen, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't know you were actually coming today. Mom said you had canceled." "Canceled?" The word came out as a croak. "I spoke to her earlier today. I told her I was on my way. Well, she told everyone you couldn't make it. She's been planning this dinner party for weeks. Important connections for her new business venture." "New business venture?" My mother had been a hospital administrator for 20 years. "What business venture?" I asked. "The boutique spa she's opening with her new partner, Richard's Investing. He's here tonight." None of this made sense. Mom had never mentioned any Richard or any spa. "Tyler, I've been sending mortgage money every month. Is Mom even still working at the hospital?" A pause. "Not since last year." "Look, this isn't a great time to get into all this. I just wanted to tell you not to be upset about tonight. You know how Mom gets about her social standing lately. Having you show up unannounced just threw her off." "Unannounced?" My voice rose. "I've been planning this Christmas visit for months. I sent extra money specifically for holiday dinner." Another pause, longer this time. When Tyler spoke again, his tone had shifted to something placating, the voice he used when trying to charm his way out of trouble. "Don't make this a bigger deal than it is, Allie. Christmas Day is tomorrow. Maybe we can meet somewhere for coffee in the morning, just you and me. Exchange gifts then." The casual dismissal in his voice broke something inside me. All those years of support, of caring, of prioritizing their needs above my own, reduced to a consolation coffee if it could be conveniently fit into his schedule. "Fine," I said flatly. "I understand. Great. You're the best, sis. Always understanding." Relief flooded his voice. "I should get back in there before they notice I'm gone too long. Text me what hotel you're staying at, and I'll call you tomorrow about meeting up." "I understand," I repeated, unable to formulate any other response through the numbness spreading. "Through me, perfect. Love you. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Tyler," I whispered. I expected to hear the call disconnect. Instead, there was rustling, muffled sounds. Tyler had failed to properly end the call. His voice returned, no longer speaking to me, but to someone in the house. His tone completely transformed from the conciliatory one he'd just used. "Crisis averted," he said, followed by what sounded like laughter. "She's going to some hotel, totally bought the coffee plan." A female voice responded, too distant to make out the words. "I know, right?" Tyler continued. "She still thinks helping with rent means she's automatically included in everything we do. Like, we're obligated to have her around just because she sends money." My entire body went cold as his words registered. Each syllable sliced through years of familial trust, revealing the ugly truth beneath. "It's not like she can't afford it," a different voice chimed in. Possibly my mother's. "Have you seen her apartment in those Facebook photos, all that travel? She's doing fine without us." "Exactly," Tyler agreed. "Meanwhile, we're using her money for the things that actually matter to us. She's so desperate to be needed that she never even questions why we always need more." Laughter followed, multiple voices joining in. "Remember when she missed last Christmas because of that flu?" my mother's voice asked. "And she sent those ridiculous packages express delivery?" The look on Kevin's face when I told him they were from my daughter, who thinks sending presents makes up for never visiting. "Speaking of presents," Tyler added, "you should see what she brought today. Standing there with a literal homemade pie like we're in some Hallmark movie. So pathetic." More laughter, growing fainter as he apparently walked away from wherever he'd stashed his phone. "She's always been like that," my mother's voice continued, barely audible now. "Always wanting more emotional connection than normal people. Always asking how we're feeling, if we're okay. Wanting to talk for hours about nothing. Who has time for that? At least her money doesn't talk, someone joked. Followed by the clinking of glasses and more laughter before the voices became too distant to distinguish. I sat paralyzed, phones still pressed to my ear as the conversation continued without me. About me. Revealing truths never meant for me to hear. The people I'd loved most in the world, the family I'd supported faithfully for years, saw me as nothing more than a convenient source of income. Worse, they mocked the very things about me that I'd thought made me a good daughter and sister, my generosity, my desire for connection, my genuine care for their well-being. The call continued for several more minutes, the phone apparently abandoned in some room away from the main gathering. Occasional snippets of conversation drifted through, each one another dagger to my heart. The money for Christmas dinner went to Richard's daughter's wedding gift, told her I needed a reliable car, bought the Audi instead, country, club membership was the best investment we could make for networking, never questions any of it. Finally, a beep signaled the call had ended, either from Tyler retrieving his phone, or the battery dying. I lowered my phone slowly, staring at the screen as if it might offer some explanation, some evidence that what I'd heard had been a cruel joke or a terrible misunderstanding. But there was no misunderstanding the contempt in their voices. No misinterpreting the calculated exploitation revealed in their casual conversation. For years, I'd been nothing but a distant ATM to them, valued only for financial support while being mocked for seeking emotional connection in return. Through the fog of betrayal, one thought crystallized with surprising clarity. I needed documentation. Opening my banking app, I began taking screenshots of every transfer to their accounts, every extra payment, every financial gift I'd sent over the years. The amounts were staggering when viewed all at once. Enough for a down payment on my own house. Enough for extensive international travel. Enough to have transformed my own life in countless ways. Instead, it had funded country club memberships I'd never heard about, ski trips to Aspen that were never mentioned, a boutique spa business that was apparently common knowledge to everyone except me. As my fingers scrolled through years of transactions, memories surfaced alongside them. The promotion celebration I'd attended alone because they were too busy to visit Chicago. The hospitalization for appendicitis where neither of them came to see me. The achievement awards and recognition dinners where other colleagues were surrounded by proud family members while I sat alone, all while the money flowed steadily from my account to theirs. The snow continued falling outside, covering my car in a thick white blanket as I sat inside, methodically documenting years of financial support juxtaposed against years of emotional neglect. With each screenshot, each saved email requesting just a little extra this month, something shifted inside me. The paralyzing pain began hardening into something else entirely: resolve. The Riverside Inn's neon vacancy sign glowed through the swirling snow, a beacon of temporary shelter. It wasn't the Christmas Eve I'd imagined, checking into a roadside motel alone instead of sleeping in my childhood bedroom. But nothing about this night had gone as planned. "Just passing through?" the night clerk asked as he processed my credit card. "Something like that," I replied, unable to explain that I was suddenly homeless in my hometown, cast out by my own family. Room 118 smelled of industrial cleaner and staleness. Its beige walls and outdated floral bed spread a far cry from the festive warmth I'd anticipated for the holiday. I placed my overnight bag on the luggage rack and sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my coat, still not quite believing the events of the past 2 hours. The clock on the nightstand read 10:28 p.m. In normal families, this would be a time of winding down Christmas Eve, celebrations, perhaps preparing for children to wake excited in the morning, or enjoying final moments together with loved ones before the big day. In my family, if I could even call them that anymore, the party at my mother's house was likely still in full swing. My existence already forgotten or worse, served up as an amusing anecdote for their glamorous guests. Sleep was impossible. My mind replayed the rejection at the door, followed by the devastating phone conversation, analyzing each word for any trace of affection or regret. There was none. Only calculation, mockery, and casual cruelty. Opening my laptop, I connected to the motel's spotty Wi-Fi and accessed my email. If the verbal evidence I'd overheard wasn't enough, surely there would be written confirmation of their deception. I started with Tyler, searching his name in my inbox. The results were illuminating. Scrolling through years of communication revealed a pattern so obvious I wondered how I'd missed it. Every contact initiated by Tyler followed a predictable cycle. Casual check-in, update on some promising opportunity, subtle or direct mention of financial challenges, request for assistance, effusive gratitude upon receipt, then silence until the next need arose. 10 minutes into my search, I found something even more damning. An email Tyler had forwarded to me accidentally 2 years ago, apparently intended for our mother. She agreed to the extra $1,000 for the car repairs. That should cover the rest of the down payment on the boat. Maybe mention something about the transmission next month if we need the summer storage fees covered too. I remembered sending that $1,000, remembered the relief in Tyler's voice when he called to thank me, saying the repairs meant he could keep his job since he wouldn't miss shifts due to unreliable transportation. I'd felt good about helping, proud even. Meanwhile, they'd been laughing at my gullibility while spending my hard-earned money on luxury items. My mother's emails followed similar patterns, though more subtle. She specialized in health scares and house emergencies, always downplaying their severity when requesting funds, but dramatically emphasizing the crucial timing of my assistance. One thread particularly stood out. Her desperate pleas for help with mortgage payments to avoid foreclosure coincided with social media posts, which I hadn't noticed at the time, showing her vacation in Sedona at a luxury spa resort. The mortgage payments. For 3 years I'd been transferring $800 monthly toward what I believed was saving my childhood home from financial distress. Had there even been a mortgage crisis, or was that another fabrication? With growing dread, I searched my credit card statements next. Authorized user additions I'd approved years ago for emergencies only showed consistent usage for restaurants, clothing stores, and entertainment venues. A separate card I'd provided for medication costs had been regularly maxed out at high-end department stores and electronics retailers. The more I searched, the more evidence materialized. What had begun as occasional familial support had evolved into systematic financial exploitation. By conservative estimates, I had given them over $80,000 in direct transfers alone over the past 5 years, not counting credit, card charges, gifts, or other indirect support. The bathroom mirror reflected a stranger when I finally stood to splash cold water on my face. Red-rimmed eyes, hollow cheeks, hair disheveled from running my hands through it repeatedly in disbelief. This woman looked broken, betrayed, but something else flickered in her expression too, something steely and determined. At the desk, I opened a new document and began typing. No emotional language, no accusations, just facts, dates, amounts, stated purposes, versus discovered actual uses. A complete accounting of financial support provided, and the systematic deception surrounding it. By 3 a.m., I had created a comprehensive record of every dollar given, every lie told, every manipulation tactic employed. The document complete, I saved it, then opened my banking app again. The interface was familiar. The actions I was about to take were not. My finger hovered over the screen, a lifetime of family loyalty battling with the undeniable evidence of betrayal. Family doesn't do this to each other, I whispered to the empty room. The first step was the automatic transfers, $800 monthly to Margaret Reed, $500 monthly to Tyler Reed. With a few taps, both were canceled, effective immediately. Next, the credit cards. I logged into each account, reporting the authorized user cards as compromised and requesting immediate cancellation. For the separate card in my name that my mother used for emergencies, I reported it lost, and requested a replacement with a new number. Finally, the mortgage assistance. This would require a phone call in the morning, but I made a calendar appointment to contact the bank first thing. Each action brought a strange mixture of pain and liberation. These financial ties had been my primary connection to my family for years. The tangible expression of love and support I could provide from a distance. Cutting them felt like severing limbs, yet with each transaction canceled, each exploitative access point closed, my breathing grew steadier, my thinking clearer. By dawn, I had systematically dismantled the financial infrastructure that had defined my family relationships for the past 5 years. My bank accounts were now solely mine. My credit was protected. My future earnings would serve my own needs and goals. The room's cheap drapes did little to block the Christmas morning sunrise. Golden light spilled across the table where my lap displayed the completed documentation of financial abuse, and my methodical response to it. Outside, distant church bells chimed, calling the faithful to Christmas services. I should have felt devastated. In many ways, I was. But rising alongside the grief was something unexpected. A profound sense of having reclaimed control over my own life. For years, I'd poured resources into a bottomless pit of need that was never really need at all. Just greed disguised as family obligation. Picking up my phone, I composed a single email addressed to both my mother and brother. Subject: termination. A financial support effective immediately. I have canceled all automatic transfers, removed authorized users from my credit accounts, and will no longer be providing financial assistance of any kind. Documentation of past support totaling $83,459.17 over 5 years has been saved for potential legal purposes. Do not contact me regarding financial matters again. Allison, short, direct, unemotional. My finger hovered over the send button as doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Was I throwing away my only family over money? Then Tyler's mocking voice echoed in my memory. She still thinks helping with rent means she's automatically included. My mother's dismissive tone, always wanting more emotional connection than normal people. This wasn't about money, this was about respect, honesty, and genuine care. All things my financial support had apparently bought me none of. I pressed send. Then I packed my overnight bag, checked out of the motel, and pointed my car back towards Chicago, leaving behind the broken pieces of what I'd always thought was family love. The interstate stretched before me, surprisingly empty on Christmas morning. Most people were home with their families, opening presents, preparing festive meals, creating memories. I gripped the steering wheel with determination, each mile putting distance between me and the shattered illusion of my family bonds. At the first rest stop across the Indiana border, I pulled over to make the calls that couldn't wait. The bank's customer service operated with a skeleton crew for the holiday. But after explaining my situation as a possible fraud case, I was transferred to their security department. So you've been sending regular payments labeled as mortgage assistance to this other party? The representative clarified. Yes, for 3 years. But I now have reason to believe there may never have been a mortgage issue at all. My voice remained steady, professional, as if discussing someone else's situation. I understand, we're placing an immediate stop on any pending transactions to these accounts. Our fraud department will contact you after the holiday to discuss possible recourse options for misrepresented transactions. One by one, I methodically closed every financial pipeline that had flowed from me to them. Credit card companies, payment apps, the investment account I'd established for Tyler's future, business plans. Each representative expressed holiday sympathies while processing my requests without question. Financial self-protection, it seemed, was something they understood all too well, even on Christmas Day. The final call was to my landlord in Chicago, from whom I'd been subletting the garden apartment in my building to Tyler at a significant discount for the past 2 years. He had claimed to be between places temporarily while building his savings. Given what I now knew about ski trips to Aspen and luxury cars, this too had likely been a convenient fiction. I'll need to terminate the sublease agreement with my brother, I explained to Mr. Kaplan. I've just learned he's been misrepresenting his financial situation. That's unfortunate, the elderly landlord replied, especially on Christmas. Family troubles are the worst kind. Yes. I agreed simply, unable to elaborate further without emotion threatening to break through. Back on the highway my phone began its assault. First came the text messages, starting with confusion, quickly escalating to disbelief and anger. Tyler, what's going on? My card was just declined at the gas station. Tyler, Allie, are you serious right now? On Christmas? Tyler, answer. Me, what did you do? My mother's messages followed almost immediately. Mom, Allison, I tried to make a purchase and my card was declined. Fix this immediately. Mom, this is completely unacceptable behavior after everything we've done for you. Mom, if this is about last night, you're being childish and vindictive. I placed my phone in the passenger seat, screen down, and focused on the road ahead. Their messages deserved no response. The email I'd sent explained everything they needed to know. By the time I stopped for lunch at a roadside diner, the only establishment open along the highway, my voicemail was full. Notifications of missed calls scrolled endlessly. Tyler, Mom, unknown numbers that were likely them calling from others' phones when I didn't answer their initial attempts. The diner's Christmas decorations seemed almost obscene in their cheerfulness. Twinkling lights and plastic poinsettias surrounding a small artificial tree with blinking colored bulbs. The handful of other patrons looked as out of place as I felt. Stranded travelers and solitary figures united only by our absence from traditional family gatherings. Merry Christmas, honey, the waitress said, setting down a turkey sandwich special with a small side of cranberry sauce. On the road to see family? Coming back, actually, I replied softly. The visit ended early. She nodded with the wisdom of someone who had seen many holiday disappointments. Sometimes that's for the best. I checked my phone while picking at the sandwich. 23 missed calls, 38 text messages, 7 voicemails, and now emails beginning to arrive. The first was from Tyler, subject line, "You need to fix this right now." The message contained no greeting, just a series of demands. Whatever game you're playing needs to stop. I have bills due Monday. The party last night cost more than expected, and I'm already overdrawn. Mom is hysterical. Her business partner is waiting for her portion of the investment, and now she can't access the money. You had no right to cut us off without warning. You're punishing us because you felt left out of one dinner. Grow up and turn the cards back on immediately. My mother's email arrived minutes later, its tone fluctuating between righteous indignation and manipulative guilt. I don't know what kind of breakdown you're having, but this is beyond unacceptable. After everything I've sacrificed for you, the years of putting your needs first, this is how you repay maternal love? By trying to destroy Christmas? By embarrassing me in front of important business connections? Your brother is beside himself. He was counting on that money for essential expenses. I raised you better than this vindictive behavior. I expect the transfers restored and access reinstated by the time you read this, or don't bother calling yourself my daughter anymore. What sacrifices had she made for me? What needs of mine had ever come first? The revisionist history was almost as stunning as the original betrayal. The pattern continued throughout the afternoon. As I drove through Indiana, the messages evolved from angry demands to desperate pleas. Tyler. Allie, please. My landlord is going to evict me if I don't pay today. I'm not joking. Mom, the spa location deposit is due tomorrow. If I lose it, I lose everything I've worked for. Tyler. I didn't mean what you heard. It was a stupid joke. Please call me. Mom, whatever you think you know, you've misunderstood. We need to talk. By early evening, as Chicago's skyline appeared, on the horizon, the tone shifted again. Now came threats. Mom, if you don't fix this immediately, I'll have no choice but to involve lawyers. Tyler, hope you realize this counts as financial abuse. Cutting people off without warning is illegal. Mom, I've contributed to those accounts too. You have no right to block my access. The legal threats were as empty as their earlier concern had been genuine. I had withdrawn only my own funds, canceled only my own cards. Their attempted intimidation only confirmed the correctness of my actions. I pulled into my apartment building's parking lot. The final phase began, bargaining mixed with character assassination. Tyler, okay, you've made your point, very dramatic. Now turn the cards back on, and we can talk about a reasonable support plan going forward. Mom, I always knew you had emotional problems. This erratic behavior proves it. Let me help you get the therapy you clearly need. Tyler, don't tell anyone about this family disagreement. You'll just embarrass yourself. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, greeted only by the silent Christmas tree and the stale air of a home left unoccupied for days, I had 47 missed calls. The final voicemail left by my mother captured the essence of our entire relationship. Allison, this is your mother. I don't know what kind of point you're trying to make with this financial tantrum, but it ends now. We have always been there for you, always supported your choices, even when you abandoned your family to move to Chicago. All we've ever asked in return is minimal financial help during difficult times. If you've somehow convinced yourself we've taken advantage, that's your own insecurity talking. Call me back immediately so we can resolve this misunderstanding. And, Allison, your brother and I expect compensation for the emotional distress you've caused today. This was supposed to be a special Christmas. I deleted the message along with all the others without responding. Setting my phone to Do Not Disturb, I placed it on the charger and walked to the kitchen to make tea. The apartment felt different somehow, not emptier as I'd feared, but cleaner. As if a long festering infection had finally been lanced, painful in the process, but necessary for healing. On my refrigerator, a save-the-date magnet for a colleague's spring wedding caught my attention. 6 months ago I'd automatically assumed I'd attend alone as I did most events. Now I wondered if I might invite someone, build new connections, create a chosen family to replace the biological one that had proven so hollow. By morning, my phone showed 61 missed calls. I left them all unanswered as the first day of my new life began. January arrived with bitter winds and heavy snow, mirroring the frozen landscape of my emotional state. The holidays passed in a blur of solitude and paperwork, fraud reports filed with credit agencies, financial records organized for potential legal action, new accounts created with enhanced security features. The external work of separating my finances completely from my family occupied my hands while my heart remained numb, protected by shock from the full impact of what had happened. The calls eventually stopped around New Year's Day, replaced by occasional emails that grew less frequent as weeks passed with no response. My mother's final message came in mid-January. Its subject line intended to wound. Your father always said you'd abandon us too. I deleted it unread. At Lisa's insistence, I scheduled an appointment with a therapist. Something's different about you, my boss had observed after the Thornton presentation, which I delivered flawlessly despite my internal turmoil. Whatever happened over Christmas has changed you. Dr. Kaur's office became a sanctuary where I could finally verbalize the magnitude of the betrayal without fear of judgment. In our first session, I struggled to even name what had happened. My family, they didn't want me anymore, was all I could manage before tears overwhelmed me. By our third meeting I could articulate more clearly. They used me for money while mocking my desire for connection. They saw my generosity as weakness to exploit, not love to reciprocate. What you're describing is financial abuse, Dr. Kaur said gently, combined with profound emotional manipulation. Your grief is completely appropriate. Grief. That word unlocked something. I wasn't just angry or hurt, I was grieving the death of relationships I'd believed in all my life. The mother I thought had loved me had never existed. The brother I'd protected and supported had been playing a role. The family I'd sacrificed for was a fiction I'd created and maintained through willful blindness. February brought small victories. I opened a separate savings account, redirecting the funds previously sent to my family toward my own future. By month's end, I had accumulated enough for a weekend getaway, my first truly selfish expenditure in years. 2 days at a lakeside cabin with novels, hiking trails, and absolute solitude gave me space to breathe, to imagine a life defined by my own choices rather than others' needs. Identity is the next challenge, Dr. Kaur suggested upon my return. Who is Allison Reed when she's not primarily a daughter or sister? When she's not defined by caretaking or financial support? That's what you get to discover now. The question haunted me through March's thaw. Without family obligations draining my energy and resources, unexpected space opened in my life. I accepted dinner invitations from colleagues I'd previously been too busy to get to know. I joined a weekend photography class, rekindling an interest abandoned years ago when family emergencies consistently interrupted my hobbies. One evening in early spring, my downstairs neighbor Clara invited me for coffee. An elderly widow whose children lived overseas, she had always greeted me warmly in passing, but we'd never moved beyond pleasant small talk. "I noticed you stopped rushing out of town on holidays," she observed, serving homemade lemon cake alongside strong coffee. "Family troubles?" Something about her direct kindness broke through my practiced deflections. I discovered my family was using me for money, while actively excluding me from their lives. Instead of the awkward sympathy I'd come to expect, Clara nodded matter-of-factly. "My son in Australia did something similar, convinced me to sell my summer cottage to fund his business, which turned out to be a yacht." Her frankness startled a laugh from me. "What did you do?" "Cut him off completely for 2 years. When he finally came back apologizing, I had conditions, real accountability, regular contact that wasn't about money. 5 years later, we're rebuilding something healthier." She poured more coffee. "Not saying that's your path, mind you. Some relationships can't and shouldn't be salvaged." That conversation marked a turning point. Clara introduced me to her weekly card group, 4 women and 2 men in their 60s and 70s who welcomed me without question. They taught me canasta, shared stories of their own family complications, and never probed when topics became uncomfortable. With them, I experienced community without obligation, affection without exploitation. By summer, my professional life blossomed alongside these new personal connections. The energy previously consumed by family drama now fueled creative projects. At work, Lisa promoted me to lead our agency's newest high-profile account. My savings grew steadily. I began researching first-time homebuyer programs, imagining routes of my own choosing. When Clara's building elevator broke in July, I naturally helped organize a schedule of neighbors to assist with groceries and errands. My contribution evolved into Sunday dinners in her apartment. Cooking skills once used to nurture my ungrateful family, now serving to build genuine friendships. Other neighbors joined occasionally, creating an impromptu chosen family that expanded with each gathering. "You're good at creating connection," Clara observed one evening as we washed dishes together. That was never the problem. The problem was the people you were connecting with didn't deserve it. As Thanksgiving approached, the holiday anxiety I anticipated felt surprisingly distant. When Clara asked about my plans, I hesitated only briefly before suggesting we host dinner together for our growing circle of friends. The meal we created bore no resemblance to traditional family gatherings of my past. No tension, no calculated exchanges, no keeping score, just genuine appreciation and the comfortable silence of people who enjoy each other's company. Christmas loomed larger in my emotional landscape. Dr. Kaur suggested confronting it directly rather than pretending the anniversary of my family's severance didn't matter. "What would a healing Christmas look like for you?" she asked in our early December session. The answer came with unexpected clarity. Rather than seeking replacement family experiences, I wanted to transform the holiday's meaning entirely. I signed up to volunteer at a community center serving Christmas dinner to isolated seniors and struggling families. The center director mentioned they lacked gifts for several seniors on their list. "I could help with that," I offered. Thinking of the fulfillment I'd once found in selecting perfect presents for people who had secretly mocked my efforts. Shopping for strangers who would genuinely appreciate the thought behind each gift brought unexpected joy. I took care learning the seniors' histories from center staff, selecting items that acknowledged their individuality rather than just their needs. A vintage jazz record for Mr. Washington, who had played saxophone in clubs across Chicago in his youth. A cashmere scarf in her favorite shade of purple for Mrs. Diaz, who had taught art before arthritis claimed her dexterity. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after standing shocked and rejected on my mother's porch, I helped decorate the community center. No elaborate display like my mother's precisely arranged decor, just cheerful paper chains made by children and mismatched ornaments donated over years. The authenticity felt more beautiful than any polished presentation. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. Before heading to the center, I logged into my banking app and made an anonymous donation to a family support nonprofit, deliberately choosing one that specialized in helping people establish financial independence from toxic relationships. The amount matched exactly what I would have sent my mother and brother in holiday extras the previous year. The community center buzzed with activity when I arrived. Volunteers in Santa hats served food, distributed gifts, and simply sat talking with attendees who had no one else to spend the day with. I found myself assigned to Mrs. Chen's table. a 92-year-old former mathematics professor, whose sharp wit and observation skills reminded me of Clara. First time volunteering? She asked between bites of turkey. Yes. First Christmas since I lost my family. She studied me with keen eyes, lost as in died, or lost as in discovered they weren't worth keeping. The second one, I admitted, surprised by my own candor. She nodded. Been there. Married 47 years to a man who had a second family in Detroit, found out when he died and they showed up at the funeral. She patted my hand. You'll survive. Might even like the person you become after. In April, almost 16 months after the Christmas rejection, I was walking through downtown Chicago when I glimpsed a familiar face. Tyler stood examining a shop window, older looking somehow, less polished than the last time I'd seen him. When he turned and saw me, his expression cycled rapidly through shock, calculation and an attempt at casual warmth. Ali. Wow, what are the odds? He stepped toward me, arms outstretched as if for a hug. I maintained my distance, nodding politely. Tyler, I didn't know you were in Chicago. Just for a conference. His eyes assessed me, undoubtedly noting my new haircut, the tailored coat, the general aura of well-being I'd been told I now projected. You look good, really good, thank you, I am good. The simple truth of that statement surprised me. An awkward silence followed. He shuffled his feet, clearly uncomfortable with my lack of questions about his life or my mother. Listen, he finally began, about what happened. It's in the past, I interrupted calmly. I've moved forward. His expression flickered between relief and disappointment. Relief at being spared accountability, disappointment at not getting whatever reaction he'd anticipated. Mom asks about you sometimes, he offered an obvious lie. I hope you're both well? The words contained no rancor, just polite distance. We've been struggling actually. The spa business failed, Mom had to sell the house. His eyes watched for any sign of sympathy or guilt. We've had to start over almost from scratch. 5 years ago, I would have immediately offered help. 2 years ago, I would have felt vindicated by their struggles. Today, I felt nothing but peaceful detachment. Life has challenges for everyone, I replied simply. I should get going, I have dinner plans. His expression hardened slightly. Still holding a grudge then after all this time? I smiled, genuinely amused by his misinterpretation. No grudge, Tyler, no anger, no resentment. Just boundaries. I wish you the best sincerely, but my life doesn't include you anymore. As I walked away, he called after me. Family is supposed to be forever, Ali. I turned briefly. True family is. What we had wasn't family. It was exploitation dressed up as obligation. My voice remained gentle, the realization long since processed and accepted. Goodbye, Tyler. That evening, I shared the encounter with my dinner companions, Clara, 2 neighbors from our Sunday group, and colleagues from work who had become genuine friends. Their supportive responses contained no pressure, no expectations, no implicit demands, just authentic care. As plates were cleared and dessert arrived, I looked around the table at these people who had entered my life only after I'd cleared away the debris of false family ties. None of them were perfect, all had flaws and complications. But each connection was built on mutual respect rather than obligation, on choice rather than blood, on appreciation rather than exploitation. Everything okay? Clara asked, noticing my momentary introspection. Better than okay, I replied truthfully. I was just thinking about how sometimes losing what you thought was essential opens the door to finding what actually is. Have you ever experienced a moment when you realized someone you trusted was using you? What boundaries did you create afterward? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and self-discovery. Like and share if you know someone who might need to hear that sometimes walking away is the strongest form of self-love. Thank you for being part of this healing journey with me. And remember, family is defined by love and respect, not DNA or obligation.